one of the really interesting things about Score the Podcast, and composer Carol, as she's known by our audio and video listeners sometimes, is she will play the themes of a lot of the composers that we interview. And so it might just be an Instagram thing or, whatever, but they're really beautiful and fun. And a lot of the composers will go in and say, oh man, that's a really, I really enjoyed seeing you play it. And who wouldn't? If you write a great theme and someone appreciates it and plays it, that's always a ton of fun.
That's literally what happened with me and Sid.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Can you walk us through how Carol ended up playing a little, some of the piano on season 2?
So after our very first meeting here, you guys posted our Score the Podcast interview, and then one of the things I found that I was tagged on was Carol had posted herself playing Jack's theme, and from This Is Us, and I heard it and I was just and I watched it and I was like, who is this? I was like, this is crazy. It was so beautifully performed and it was just interpreted in this outside the box way. It was this very classical version of Jack's theme on a score that has that what Carol played, as a sonic sort of idea would never have been on This Is Us, because it was a very classical approach. It was a whole other thing. But I really appreciated how she was able to sort of, how good she was as a pianist, and then how she was able to sort of interpret a theme and a melody in her own sort of way. And I thought that, and I had Carol in my sort of mental Rolodex. And then when Only Murders came along, I had been writing these pieces, and I spent 2 months writing this piece called Vantage. And it's something that you should actually, if you have it there, you have the soundtrack, Robert, or I should get you the soundtrack. We should get it to you. But listen.
I've been listening. I don't know if I look at titles, but now I will.
Yeah, listen to a piece called Vantage, and I will. I think Carol ended up playing on a version of it in season 2. But we should play that piece at some point so you can hear sort of where it ended up. But anyway, as I was writing these pieces, John and company were just like, this is awesome. There was this piece Vantage, and he's like, this is my emotional theme. Da 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 was the melody. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. La da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. That was this main sort of melody, and I had these changes.
It's so beautiful,
so good.
Thank you. I had these little changes on piano I was playing, and John was like, can you just go and finish that? Because I love that. And so that's when I called Carol, and I was like, Carol, I've spent 2 months writing this piece, and it was it's much longer. But every day I would write a couple measures in the pen. This was right around the time I was reading the script, and also around it all overlapped. The script came to me. I was writing this piece, and then finally, after 2 months of writing it, I was like, I'm done. And I was like, I need to send this to Carol. In my head, it was always Carol. I was like, I need her to hear this, and I need her to play it, and I need her to interpret it, and I need her to add her sort of her wonderful classical sensibility to it. And Carol sort of brought it home. It was really beautiful.
I want to turn the tables now. Carol, briefly, we have to ask you a question about hearing from Sid, and then how this came about, because that's also pretty. You play a good amount of themes from a lot of the composers that have been on our podcast, but this is probably a little unusual, but also pretty thrilling to be involved with. So what was that like?
100%. Yeah, it's been such an amazing opportunity, and very touched when Sid reached out, and even when he reposted my cover, I was blown away, because for me, like Sid said, for me it's just my musical style. I never thought of it of it's out of the box thing for him. And so when he told me that he wasn't imagining like, oh, this chord is not something that I even like imagined when I wrote the theme. So that to me was really touching. And then months later, like Sid said, he called me and he said that he's working on a show that he wants to be kind of his score to be piano heavy. And then I was like, of course, and I listened to Vantage, the demo Vantage over the phone. And then I immediately, like, I had a connection. I was like, I know what I'm going to play. And then it also helped that he already had like the song structure, the cue structure done. So I was really just like doing my noodling things, and it turned out really great. And I never changed the first version. Like he kept the first version of it. I remember me sending my first version of it, and he was like, "This is it. This is perfect. You're done." And I was like, "Wow, like okay." And yeah, it's been really cool, and I am looking forward to whatever comes next. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah,
there'll be more. There will be more, Carol.
Yeah.
And the other thing too with Carol is that, and Robert and I spoke about this at one point. I don't know whether it was on the phone or some of the time, but there are certain players that add this sort of like magic when they play your pieces, and and I play most of the piano on Only Murders, but I save the sort of complex, like the much richer pieces for Carol. But but there is a sort of magic to her hands. I can't describe it, and it's like there's an emotionality that she put. There's an emotionality that you play with that's really special, and I can't pinpoint what it is, but I don't want to.
I don't even know what it is. I don't know.
One of the things I really love about this conversation, and it's sort of translates into why I love being a musician and talking to musicians, because there's a very special language that Sid, you hear in Carol's playing.
Yeah.
Something that's transcendent, that isn't just playing. And I don't know if everybody would be able to hear it, acknowledge it, in some ways even more remarkable, get mileage out of that skill. So I think there's something really magic here in that you heard it